Thank you very much. And I suppose the question for me is, how do I follow that? But well done, John. And I think what you've given is a synopsis of your experience and what you know about, and I have to say mine is quite similar. But if we look at what we're doing here today, we're launching this website, and this is in a way about restarting the debate, and about a debate that's based on facts, on figures, and on proper analysis. And I suppose in a way it might seem a bit strange that we're restarting this debate, because you know, most of us in this room, I'd say all of us, probably agree that we need renewable energy. This isn't a question of do we need renewables or don't we? What's the issue about CO2 emissions? All of us here agree that we do need renewable energy. But what we're not agreed on is how we get to that end point, whether we get to a low or a zero carbon future. And that's what the debate is about here today, and indeed that's what the debate is about for the last number of months. Now, the government's policy on energy is set out in their white paper, which is delivering a sustainable energy future for Ireland from 2007 to 2020. And it's very interesting, and indeed Henry was at the meeting there about 2 months ago. The minister at the time was Eamon Ryan. And Eamon Ryan, a Green minister, has said quite clearly, and he said it that night on several occasions, that we need to revisit the plans that were put in place. Those plans were put in place during the Celtic Tiger years when we thought there was no end to our money, when we thought we could spend. However, we know very differently now. So we have the minister who was responsible for this policy saying we need to go back and look at this again. As John said and Henry said, we've had no proper SEA, Strategic Environmental Assessment. That is required by European legislation, but we haven't done that. In fact, just before Christmas, I hosted a number of wind groups and we met the Commission on this issue, and they're keeping a very close eye on what, at that point, if you remember, Minister Rabbit was going to submit a retrospective SEA for wind energy for export. Of course, we don't know what's going to happen to that now, given what's happened in the meantime. But the European Commission were keeping a very close eye on what was coming from Ireland. But we didn't even have the basics. What we were doing at that point was a policy to fit this. And that's exactly what the Minister was at. We don't have a proper cost-benefit analysis. We don't look at the economic and the social costs here. I know later on we'll talk about things like landscape, tourism, the social effect. I'm not going to deal with that. But we don't have a proper cost-benefit analysis because, as John said, this is developer-led. Developers see a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, mainly in the form of subsidies, whether the wind blows or the wind doesn't blow. And of course they got into this business. It's a big bucks business. Just look around the world and you'll see that. But of course what's also happening is change is happening. And change is happening at EU level. And in recent months, two very important things have happened. Number one, from 2030, we have no renewables targets. All we have are a reduction in emissions, CO2 emissions targets. And what that means is that countries themselves can decide how they want to get to that point. Because it was recognised within the Commission that pushing for renewables targets was not necessarily the best way to do it. But the most important thing that will impact wind energy development in Ireland is the fact that the European Commission is, by mid-April, will come forward with a paper on state aid, in other words, subsidies to the wind energy sector. And it's been recognised that those subsidies, especially in countries like Germany and the UK, are just simply too big and they don't deliver any economic benefit. We see in many countries they're already cutting back on them, but the Irish government will have to follow whatever recommendations are put in place by the Commission, and there is no doubt but that the European Commission will come forward with proposals to significantly cut the kind of subsidies that can be paid to the wind energy sector. And that, of course, will make a significant difference to what is supposed to be happening. Also, we had up to recently this idea that we were going to export our overpriced wind energy to the UK because, as many of you are aware, the UK citizens and communities there do not want the pylons, invading their communities. We can see what's happening there. So we thought that we would have an Irish solution to a British problem. And it's very interesting. Some colleagues of mine were here 12 months ago at an energy conference, some Lib Dems from the UK. And they said to me afterwards, they were very surprised because when they asked the question, were there any objections in Ireland to wind energy? They were assured, now this was 12 months ago during the Irish presidency, they were absolutely assured there were no objections, there were no problems. The Irish were more than happy to have all of these wind turbines to export the wind energy to the UK. Of course, in the intervening 12 months, people have realised what is happening, and we are now in a very different situation today. But anyway, that's all changing because the UK is going with nuclear and with shale, so it won't require our overpriced wind energy. So what we're about here today is looking at the reality of wind energy. And while there are many issues, as I said, everything from shadow flicker to noise to setback distances, all of those are very important matters and need to be discussed because we will need some wind energy to be part of our overall renewable strategy. What we don't want is the developer-driven mass, if you like, turbines right across the Midlands and the west of Ireland and Donegal and elsewhere without any policy guiding its direction. But we do know, as I said, that we need renewables, and it's how we go about this, how we spend our money. And just to finish up, Sustainable Energy Ireland have in 2012 produced a report, and Henry quoted it there a few minutes ago, where they say that the amount of carbon dioxide avoided through renewable energy use in Ireland in 2012 is I won't even give you the figure, it's 3.2 megatons of CO2, and wind energy contributes to 61% of that. So in other words, only 2.3% of that is avoided through wind energy. So what I would say to you is, and I say to the Minister, we're not NIMBYs, we're not uninformed, misinformed, misguided activists who don't know what we're doing. John, I must be in good company because Minister Rabbitte has accused me on a number of occasions of confusing and conflating, etc. And indeed, I understand very much how EirGrid operates. I sat in a room with EirGrid and the Council for the West, where they absolutely assured everybody there that the maximum amount of undergrounding that could be carried out on Grid West was 1.5 kilometres, when we know, of course, that that is completely false, and that was only 3 months ago. So they haven't changed their tune, and I agree with you. A lot of what is happening now is just purely in terms of elections that are coming up. But I want to congratulate Wind Aware Ireland. It's an excellent website, it's well argued, it's comprehensive, and it's a great resource for the many communities throughout the country that will use it. Thank you.